We'll get started now. Um, I'm Dr. Jackie Camrett, a licensed clinical psychologist and co-founder of Caregiving Care, here with my colleague and co-founder, Dr. Marcie Johnson, also a licensed clinical psychologist. And we're meeting today to say a little bit about some recent experiences in personal life, in particular Marcie's personal life, and how that's kind of woven into our mission of caregiving care. So first we'll say just a little bit for anybody who's maybe new to finding us what caregiving care is and how it was born. So caregiving care is a caregiving consultancy in which Marcie and I together collaborate working with clients who are caregivers and providing them with personalized and tailored resources, tips, and tools to help them transform their caregiving journey and return to, or maybe for the first time, prioritize their own wellness. So that's kind of the core of our mission. And it was born from where we first met, which was when we were completing our PhDs at the University of Iowa. And we both, over many coffees, many wines, many dinners, had conversations about the challenges that our parents were going through when it came to caregiving. So our parents were and are at times still, right, caregivers for their aging parents, maybe a sibling. And we know many other people in our worlds and beyond our personal worlds that are in this position, in this role with this responsibility. And so as we were having these conversations, we were realizing the emotional toll that even trickled down to us. So we'd be processing our own emotions about our parents being caregivers and then started talking about why is there no support or what seems like maybe limited support or hard to find, hard to pinpoint support for the caregiver. There's a lot out there, a lot of resources and conversation around care recipients. But we really started honing in on like there's some kind of a gap here in terms of caring for the caregiver. And so we had a lot of conversations and just started dreaming up a new genre of care for the caregiver. And that's where caregiving care came in. And I'm going to kind of turn it over to you, Marcie, to say a little bit about what's been going on recently with you, or if you first want to, add to anything I said, but just kind of where we're at right now and how it's relevant and potentially helpful to us in understanding our own journey personally and professionally, and also to our clients and other people out there.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks, Jackie. Yeah, so just I mimic everything that Jackie you just said. One small thing to add is, recognition that there are resources definitely out there for caregivers for sure. The landscape though can feel really overwhelming, and one of our goals really in caregiving care is that to add that individualized and personalized touch to caregiver support. And so sort of going a step beyond, Googling or, here's this national resource or whatever, and really getting into the weeds with the caregiver of like, where are you stuck? What's happening with you? And how do we address those needs with you? Yeah, and so and I think, both of us saw that with our parents, right? That like, I know my dad, for example, joined a Parkinson's support group that he found online and like showed up and like it was no longer a thing. And so like that wasn't helpful. um so things like that. So I think, yeah, that's sort of one of the other components I just wanted to mention. Yeah, and then as you mentioned and alluded to, there have been some recent changes in my personal health journey, um, which I am kind of ambivalent, honestly, about talking about publicly. But in the conversations that we've had, I feel like me and you have had a lot of conversations um, that kind of circle back to, oh, this could be really useful, like information for us in our work with the caregivers that we work with. Um, so I think it's important to do. So I'll kind of take a couple steps back and give a little context about what's going on, and then kind of what my hope and our hope in this conversation and in conversations to follow um, is. So I was diagnosed with breast cancer at the end of October of this year, and kind of rapidly went from, young mom with lots of different irons in the fire for my career, taking care of baby, um, to screeching halt. Suddenly, I'm diagnosed with breast cancer, and become cancer has become my full time job. And so, not surprisingly, it's been a really, really challenging past couple of months. I have stage 3 breast cancer. It's a little unclear because staging is a little complicated. But I underwent a bilateral mastectomy in November and am beginning chemotherapy tomorrow, and then will also likely undergo an additional surgery and radiation and hormone therapy. So the next, little while is um going to be a bit of a doozy for me. That all being said, what we keep coming back to is that we launched this caregiver consultancy where both of us have kind of combined our expertise, mine being in working with patients and their caregivers who are having changes in thinking, so like dementia or other neurocognitive disorders, and you combining mind and body, and sort of being the experts on caregiver support. And then, like, suddenly I was launched into this role as care recipient. Um, and while emotionally it's been really hard, and a nightmare, to be honest, not being the care recipient necessarily, but just, having everything that's been happening. Um, from an intellectual standpoint, and sort of like from my scientist lens or curious human lens, there have been some really interesting things that I've noticed. Um, and sort of ways that, right, my closest people, my husband, my mom, my dad, my sister, they themselves have been pushed into more caregiver positions for me. And it's been really interesting because I can see the dynamics between me and them shifting and just all the emotion and the logistics and the feelings that have come along with that. Um, and I think that was sort of my main motivation in having this conversation with you today, and hoping that over the next, couple weeks to months as I go through this journey, we'll be able to talk with my caregivers and me and kind of have this unique opportunity to bridge the gap between caregiver and care recipient by like hashing out different experiences that we've had. And I can already think of like multiple experiences that I've had with my mom or with my sister, where it's like, I know what they're intending to do, but it is not landing that way for me, but they don't know that. And like, how do I say that to them without being mean or rude or whatever it is, whatever. I have some more colorful language that maybe we'll get to later, but I'll try to I'll try to control myself or censor myself for now. Um but I just think that, like I said at the beginning, and I know I've been talking for a long time, so I'll turn it back over to you in just a minute. But like I said at the beginning, I have a lot of mixed feelings about doing this. I've never really been like an on camera person. Um, and especially now when like I know that I'm gonna be facing a lot of physical changes as well as, emotional changes in the next few months. Um, but I just keep coming back to this idea that mm, having conversations between a caregiver and the person they're giving care for to not only, could be meaningful to us in our role as with caregiving care, but also to other people who are out there providing care and or receiving care. Um, so that's my hope, and that's what's going on with me, and it totally sucks. um, and here we are.
Here we are. Thanks for saying all that. I know before I pressed record, I feel like you were starting to talk yourself out of doing this. You're like, I think we should do this maybe tomorrow, and then today you were like, really getting to a point where you're like, maybe we don't do this. Whatever you think. But no, I know. I mean, I think it's really brave. Like I don't know, obviously, and maybe I didn't say this when I described caregiving care, but Marcie and I are really good friends. So we're really close. And I'm like in awe of you and how brave it is to talk about something that is so personal and that it's so complicated. And I'm here for it. I'm ready to support you however I can. And if that's through us having conversations like this, I mean, I feel like I'm really lucky to be a part of that. So thanks for doing it and thanks for talking about it. And um yeah, we'll see where things go. And I think it's a great idea to keep the conversations going with you and those in that caregiving role now for you and how complicated that is. I mean, and I also appreciate the level of dark humor that you bring to everything always. And I think other people can benefit from that too sometimes. So yeah, I think I think it's really good. I think it's really meaningful.